Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Money Magnum post game show. I've just watched. If you watched that game, for anybody that didn't watch that game, you must be hiding under a rock because we just witnessed the greatest comeback in NBA history. The New York Knicks, down 29 in the second quarter, overcome a 29-point deficit and defeat the San Antonio Spurs 107-106. Just an incredible performance. What a game. If you happen to be in the comments, if you have anybody out there, comment, did you see the game? Obviously, did you see the last 2 minutes of that game? It was absolutely incredible. And we have a lot to talk about here. I have a lot to say about this because the Spurs possibly might have lost the title tonight. And I got a lot to say about how they handled this game and the fact that New York's battle-tested and resilient attitude overcame the Spurs' overall talent in this game. And possibly if New York can cap off this series and win their first championships in 1973, the Spurs are going to live with that haunt for a while until they could successfully win the title. But for those that are out there, hit the like and subscribe. You know, I welcome your eyes and your ears to this show. You could be watching many other platforms like Inside the NBA or Speak Easy with Acho or Shannon Sharp's Nightcap with Ocho Cinco and King ISO. But if you happen to watch that and, you know, you're able to watch this show here, please do so. I am grateful that you are on here with me, and hopefully you guys can comment about what happened in this game, because the Spurs, who were up by 29 in the second quarter, as much as 79-42, throw away that second half, because let's just call it what it is. They threw away that second half to the Knicks. The Knicks also, I give them a lot of credit, came back, overcome this deficit, and pull off this monumental comeback, which is now the greatest comeback in NBA history. They defeat the San Antonio Spurs 107-106. Let me know in the comments, what did you think about this game? This was just epic. And I'll tell you what, for the people in the Garden, for people in New York, I am not a New York fan, but if you are a Knicks fan tonight, I got to tell you, I commend you guys for sticking with this team all the way through, because it has just been incredible ride for you guys. And you guys are now one game away from winning the title. And for me, I finally break my 3-game losing streak because I couldn't predict the first 3 games of this series. And I was about to go 0 for 4 in this final. And the Knicks actually saved me and made me look like a genius somewhat, but not really, because in the first half, it was dominated completely by the Spurs. The Spurs were hitting their threes. They got off to another great start, 12-2. And Karl-Anthony Towns today, just despite his horrible performance, and you got to say it, the guy played like trash because he got in foul trouble. And I said it in game 1 when I did not predict in game 1 that, obviously when the Knicks won, I had said that Karl-Anthony Towns, if he gets into foul trouble, the Knicks are in trouble, because with him not on the floor is devastating to the Knicks offense. But lucky, because OG Anunoby, who I said in the beginning of this series would be the wild card if the Knicks were to win the title, logged in 41 minutes in this game, 33 points, 10 of 15 from the field, 7 of 9 from 3, and hit every free throw 6 for 6. Every single point that OG Anunoby scored in this game was about as valuable as it can be. They needed every single one of those 33 points for the Knicks to win today. And he just performed like a champion, and it was just phenomenal. Karl-Anthony Towns, like I said, disappointing, 26 minutes, 13 points, 4 of 5 from the field, hit that only 1 3-pointer, but he was in foul trouble the entire game. He picked up 2 quick fouls in the beginning of the game, which was completely inexcusable. They just needed him to stay out of foul trouble, and he couldn't do that. Other people in this game, Josh Hart, 33 points, only has 6 points in this game. He did not really contribute. Brunson played almost the entire game, 44 minutes, 36 points, 12 of 25. He had struggled in the beginning of the game, put in only 3 of 7 from 3, and had the smartest decision of the entire game, taking that 3 early. He did what the Spurs could not do in game 2, and what they do the entire game stubbornly. They shoot early in the shot clock, and in game 2, when they needed them to shoot early in regulation, they didn't, and that's why they ended up losing that game in game 2. Instead, Brunson intelligently shot the ball as soon as he got it, because if Taya would have missed and the Spurs would have recovered the rebound, they could have fouled. Had they had made both free throws, they only would have been down by 3, and they still would have had a chance to tie the game. And that's what Brunson chose, to shoot that 3. And by the gift of God, OG Anunoby outleaped everybody and tipped that ball in to put him in the lead and seal the victory. So once again, tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments. It was just incredible. As for the Spurs, there was a couple of great contributions. Victor Wembanyama, only 24 points, 44 minutes, but only 9 of 25 from the field. So he definitely did not look at himself. He's just a poor shooting night for him. The guy that really impressed me today, De'Aaron Fox, 37 minutes, 18 points, 6 of 16 from the field, hit 4 threes. Finally, his shot was going down from three-point land, and he couldn't buy a three-point basket in the first 3 games. And him and Vassell had 18 points in 40 minutes, 6 of 9 shooting, 5 of 8 of 3. The Spurs came out with a fury shooting the 3 ball. They were just unconscious, which got them the big lead. Overall, they shot 40%, 17 of 43. So they came down to earth in the second half. And as well as Dylan Harper. I'll tell you what, though, Dylan Harper is going to be a star. This rookie, 32 minutes, 21 points, 8 of 12. Arguably, he should be in the starting lineup, but there's just, with this lineup that they have right now, the Spurs are probably the most effective. But him coming off the bench with 21 points, hit 3 of 6 from 3. He looked good. I mean, he is a star in the making. But we are going to talk about how the Knicks, in my opinion, might have won the title with this game if they seal the deal. Why? Because their resiliency and their battle-tested attitude overcame the Spurs' talent. Because had the Spurs won this game, I would have been convinced that the Spurs would have won in 6 games. Why? Because I think the Spurs convinced themselves in game 3 that they were the more talented team out of the 2, and they would have definitely proved it to everybody else that was watching had they had won this game. Regardless, had they had blown the 29-point lead, had they had finished winning the game, I think they would have been more battle-tested, and we would have seen them grown up before their very eyes. But unfortunately, they showed their youth, and I think if the Knicks seal the deal, whether in San Antonio in Game 5 or in Game 6, the Spurs are going to be left with their youth and inexperience lost them the title. And that's the difference between the Spurs of this year and OKC of last year. And I thought that OKC, when they were battle tested last year, they overcame all the obstacles and won the title. And they grew up and they passed all the obstacles and the tests for them ending up winning the title. And the Spurs are looking like they're going to fail that test this year if they cannot find a way to come back from this 3-1 series lead. So, like I said, tell me what you guys think. I mean, what did you guys think, that the Spurs threw away the game, or did the Knicks show their guts and their heart tonight, and knowing that they couldn't quit and they didn't quit, overcame this almost insurmountable lead to win this game in Game 4. Let's break down exactly, like I said, quarter to quarter. Starting with the first quarter, like I said, the Knicks had, just got off to a horrible start. Cat, 2 quick fouls, was just not involved in the game. The Spurs came out hitting 6 of 8 from three-point land. And then there was a lot of calls that the refs, I got to talk about the refs real quickly. the refs calls on some of these plays, like the goaltending call that was not called in the beginning of the game that was taken away from the Knicks. On Karl Anthony Towns' offensive foul, which led to the second foul, which led him sitting down, might have been questionable. But the whole point is the Spurs got off to a good start. They dominated that first quarter, winning that first quarter 41-22, and it looked like they had punched the Knicks in the mouth, and who knows what was going to happen, because Wemby in the first quarter had 13 points and was already in Mitchell Robinson's head. So, and it looked like it was going to be one of those nights where the Knicks just weren't ready. And I got to tell you, I mean, if I looked at this first half, I could have came with the conclusion that the Knicks were just simply weren't ready, and Mike Brown, or I don't know which part of the blame pie I would have blamed for this debacle had they had finished the game getting blown out. In the second quarter, it was just a lot of the same. I mean, the Spurs' biggest lead at that point was 29, 71-42. And then Cat ends up getting his third foul. He ends up sitting again. Vassell, 4 of 4 from three-point land during that point in the second quarter. Castle, although he only had 5 points, had 3 fouls. And the halftime lead was about 76. It was actually 76-49. And at that point, whatever was said in the locker room, but I'll tell you what, though, the reason I say that the Spurs lost this game more than the Knicks winning it is because they continue to do what they've done in this entire series and are choosing to shoot early in the shot clock rather than with a 20-point lead or almost a 30-point lead. They're not milking clock before they take their shots. And I believe that they could have, run down at least an average of 8 to 10 more seconds off the clock per possession, and then the Knicks wouldn't have had time to come back in this game. But they still continue to do what they do, just young and stubborn, and this also goes to their inexperienced young coach as well. And not making those adjustments hurt them, because in the third quarter, the Knicks go on a 20-6 run, cut the lead to 15 at around 87-72. OG Anunoby started catching fire, hit 5 3-pointers, and then the Spurs started turning over the ball like they've been doing in the OKC series. And they turned over the ball 5 times in that quarter, where in the entire second half, they only turned the ball 2 times. And then the Knicks ended up winning that quarter 26-14. It didn't look like it was very convincing, but they ended up cutting the lead, to 15 as they ended after 3 quarters, 90-15 there. And then we go to the fourth quarter, and the Knicks chipping away at the lead, but they were still sloppy with the basketball because they were turning the ball over. The Spurs had 22 points off the Knicks turnovers in that middle of the fourth quarter. The Knicks end up going on a run, on a 20-4 run, cut the lead to 4 at 99-95, and that's where I thought where the Spurs were in trouble, because the Spurs, rather than milk the clock at every possession, they just chose to continue to take ill-advised shots, especially ill-advised 3-point shots, and especially Wemby, who started hitting a few 3-point shots, is continuing to take 3-point shots when it is completely unnecessary, rather than just go to the paint, play center, and play tall and dominate whoever's guarding you. And I don't understand why those adjustments are not being made, but if there's one reason to point out is the inexperience of the Spurs and the coaching staff, especially the head coach, because how do you not make those adjustments? And as the Knicks are chipping away at the lead, and then they end up taking the lead 105-104. But before they take the lead, I'll tell you what, though, the last 2 minutes of that game was about the best 2 minutes of an NBA Finals game that I can remember. When Josh Hart made that steal off that turnover and had a wide open layup and missed that layup that could have put him in the lead initially, I thought had the Knicks had lost that game and that layup would have been magnified. I could have arguably would have said that Josh Hart might have missed the shot of his career. And then even crazier things happened in that game after that. After Josh Hart missed that bunny, and I'm talking about, I mean, he was totally indecisive whether to dunk it or to lay it up, and you could tell at midair he didn't know what to decide. Then Wemby goes to the line, and Wemby cannot ice a free throw. He misses 2 free throws. This is how I knew that I think that it might be the Knicks night. Because if Wemby would have iced those 2 free throws, put them up by 3, maybe, just maybe, it would have been enough for them to pull this off. And yet, despite all that, the Knicks just wanted it more. As the Spurs, they were dwindling as you saw it before your very eyes. And I got to tell you, we're going to find out what the Spurs are made of. They're down 3-1. A young team like this, you saw what happened to the Cavs in the last 7 minutes in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. They didn't recover from that. I don't care who you are. It is very difficult to recover from a seismic lead you had and you don't end up winning that game, because it really messes with your psyche. And the Cavaliers ended up getting swept as a result. The Spurs, if they lose this game in game 5 in San Antonio, they're going to look back at game 4 tonight and the one that got away. And a young team is going to be haunted by something like this until they could win the title, because it just showed, it was very evident that in game 2, they showed their youth when Wembanyama turned over the basketball in the final seconds. And then for them to lose this game, this is a massive blow to San Antonio. But the series is still not over. New York still has to close the series. And the toughest thing to do at any series is to get that closing game. But I'll tell you what, though, Knicks fans, they are going to be flooding San Antonio because the tickets are cheaper in San Antonio. Believe you me, the tickets in San Antonio for the finals are probably a fraction of the price that anybody paid, at Madison Square Garden, at the Garden tonight. So believe me, this was epic. If the Knicks end up, like I said, closing the series out, this game is a defining moment in Knicks history as well as NBA history. And I'll tell you what, you guys deserve it, because despite Karl Anthony Towns, with his horrible performance, you got to admit it. He played like trash. He got himself into foul trouble, and they still overcame it because OG Anunoby, who's been the wild card player of this series, came through and bailed his ass out. Let's just face it. He got bailed out. So anybody out there, let me know. I mean, tell me what you thought of the game. Like I said, if you can join me live, you'll see it on the replay. Tell me what you think. I still want to hear from you. But once again, I will end with this. The Knicks actually in the fourth quarter ended up winning the fourth quarter 32-16, and they won the third 26-14. So a combined 58-30. The Knicks dominated that second half, and that was the difference in the game. And clearly, OG Anunoby with those 33 points, including that tip in with 1.2 to go, was the defining moment that capped off the victory for the Knicks. So like I said, I'm going to wrap it up right here. Like I said, like and subscribe. I am going to come back. Actually, I'm going to probably do starting tomorrow, the World Cup. So I am going to be actually doing some live reaction on the World Cup. Mexico finally plays its first game. So I'm going to let you know about that. I think Mexico is going to be favored to win. And in the other game, I'll let you know I'll let you know in that second game. But like I said, the Knicks pull off the impossible, overcame a 29-point deficit, which is the greatest deficit in NBA history, in finals history, and they beat the San Antonio Spurs 107-106. So I'll see you next time. So I'll see you tomorrow. So I'll catch you on that soccer reaction.